Welcome back. Now, we've just learned how we can use the other Grux skins by duplicating the enemy BP and making a few changes on the new copy of the enemy BP. Now, I've created several copies of the enemy BP using all of the different skins available in the Paragon Grux folder. Now, I'm going to walk you through each of these copies and show you what changes I've made. Now, first I created a Grux Halloween, and for the mesh, I selected the Grux Halloween skin. And what I did was I took the mesh and scaled it down a bit, almost to 0.5, and I also scaled down the capsule component and this combat range sphere as well. So now we have a sort of smaller little baby Grux. And since this is a smaller enemy, I scaled down some of the enemy stats too. So I went to Grux Halloween Self here and searched for health, and I set the health to 85 instead of 100. So this Grux is a little bit weaker. I also set the base damage down to 10. Now, because this Grux only has 85 health, I went ahead and went into the health bar, and under the user interface where it says draw size, I set the X to 85 instead of 100, so the health bar will be smaller for this Grux. I also took that health bar widget and brought it down to where it's just above the head of this enemy. Now, I also went to the character movement component and searched for max walk speed, and I set the max walk speed for this one to be a bit slower. I put it at 400. So not only is this Grux very weak, it's also pretty slow. So it's easier to kill, harder for it to come and get you. So, it's one of those entry-level enemies. So that is the Grux Halloween. Then I created another duplicate called Grux. Now this one is just the regular Grux mesh, and the mesh itself is scaled to about 0.75, so it's a little smaller. And I went to Grux Self and I set the health to 100, and I set the base damage to 20. So it does a little bit more damage than Halloween and has a bit more health. Now I went to the health bar, made sure that it's positioned correctly above the character, and I went to user interface and set the draw size X to 100 so it's a little bit wider. In fact, for all of these Grux characters, whatever I set their health to, I went in here to the health bar and I set that draw size X to the same value. And I also positioned that health bar to just above the character. I also set the max walk speed for this Grux to 450, so it's a little bit faster than Grux Halloween. Next, I have Grux Warchief. Now, Grux Warchief is a little bit larger. The mesh has its scale set to just over 1, and I also scaled up the capsule component accordingly. I then set Grux Warchief's health to 200, so it's got twice as much health as the regular Grux. I also scaled up the damage to 40 for this one, so it deals quite a bit more damage. Now I set max walk speed for this Grux to 450, so it's also a bit faster. Next, I have Grux chest plate. Now this one is really cool. It has some armor on it. It's got a chest plate. So for this one, I altered the stats a little bit differently. I have the mesh here, and it's a little smaller. It's about 0.67 of the normal size. And for the health, I scaled the health up to 350. And for the damage, I gave it a base damage of 50. Now, I went ahead and gave this one a max walk speed of 475, so it's a little faster. Next, I have Grux Beetle Red. Now, this guy is pretty decked out, so I made this one a lot larger. It has a scale of 1.36, and I gave this one a higher amount of health. It's got 400 health. For the damage, it has 55, and for this one, the max walk speed is 600, so it's just about as fast as the regular player character. Next, we have Grux Molten, and this one looks even meaner, so I set the mesh also to have a large size. It's about 1.21, and for the health, I set this one to 425, and for damage, I set it to 60, so this one causes even more damage, and for character movement, I set max walk speed to 500. So it's not quite as fast as the player character, but it does more damage. Next, I have the Grux Quilin. I think that's how you pronounce it. It's Quilin. This one I made the biggest. So for this mesh, I have about 1.58 for the scale. And for its health, I gave it 600. And for the damage, I gave it 75. So this one is by far the most powerful of the enemies. And for the max walk speed for this one, I gave this a value of 625. So this enemy is actually faster than the main character. So it's almost like this is kind of a boss character type. Okay, so that is an example of how you can take advantage of using all these different skins to create different characters of various sizes and strengths. And so I'm going to go ahead and hit play in simulate mode just so I can scroll through and show you the relative sizes of these enemies. Okay, that's pretty amazing. Now I can go ahead and take my character and put this character's health back to 100, and we can play test this. Now, I didn't set the patrol points for any of these. If you select any one of them, you'll see that the patrol points are just right here at the center of the character. And since I didn't set these patrol points, they're just going to stand there because they don't need to reach their destination. They're already there. So I'm going to go ahead and hit play. And I can get some ammo here because I'm going to need it. Now I'm going to kill this one, and it looks like the big one is chasing me right away. And as you can see, it has a really large health bar. I'm going to have to reload here, and I need to shoot it quite a bit before I can kill it, and there it goes. Next I have a Grux War Chief here, aggroed, so it's chasing me. So I'm going to kill that one. And as you can see, I stuck a couple of Grux Halloweens right here on this metal platform. So I can pick those off. They had small health bars, as you could see. And then here's one of the Grux armor, Grux chestplate rather, characters. And as you can see, it's got quite a bit of health. And you can see by the speed that it's chasing me at that it's not quite as fast as I am. So I'll go ahead and kill that. Okay, so you get the point. So that's going to conclude this video. Before I wrap it up, I'm going to go ahead and remove this draw debug sphere function call from the enemy class. We don't really need that anymore. So let's go back into enemy.cpp. And I'm going to search for draw debug sphere. And here in begin play, where we're drawing the debug spheres, we can go ahead and remove those function calls. And since we're not using draw debug sphere anymore, we can remove draw debug helpers from the includes. So I'm going to go ahead and compile that. Now, one last detail I want to point out to you is that I noticed when I created this Grux chestplate creature that when I was shooting it, I wasn't getting any response. And that's because when I went into the Grux chestplate skeletal mesh asset, I noticed something. Let's go into Grux chestplate here and open that mesh editor. And right here under physics and lighting, I noticed that the physics asset was not set, nor was the shadow physics asset. So I had to select from the dropdown Grux extents for the physics asset and Grux sill shadows for the shadow physics asset. So you do need to make sure when you're using the different meshes and skins that certain properties are set, because we're not going to get any physics responses for things like line traces if these characters aren't using physics assets and so on. So that's just something to keep an eye out for. Thought I'd show you that because all the other Grux skins had their physics assets set except for Grux chestplate. So something to be aware of. Okay, that concludes this video. I will see you in the next video.